Hi, in this video, we're going to discuss a few different ways to export shapefiles from QGIS into AutoCAD Civil 3D. So starting in QGIS from the base map, we have all the buildings loaded in here in gray. The buildings that are going to be relevant to this project are in both blue, and these are the buildings that the fiber circuit will pass through, and in red, these are the buildings where the fiber circuit will originate. And if I add a fiber layer here, you can see, so the red building is the where we start from, and it needs to make it back to another building. So it has to, this is already using an existing spliced leg of fiber. So we'll go through these buildings and get back to the main HUD building over here, the communication arts building. What I'm more interested in for this video is I want to discuss how can we export what we've done here, and I'll bring it over to AutoCAD so we can do some more production drafting on this. First thing we're going to need to do is save these as shape files. As a side note, I do have a video that I created that shows how I built these filters up, and I will put a link in the description to show how we built this base map up with different colored buildings. So we started originally with just all the gray buildings here, and then we put filters in, and it gave us buildings that turn a different color based on their function. So all we have to do is to export. We'll just simply save feature as. It will come up. Make sure you have as reshape file up here. Come up, browse to your folder, and place it in a folder. And that's pretty simple to do. You have this here. If you're saving it, you probably don't need to add it back into the drawing because we're interested in getting over to AutoCAD. So you can just check this and then it won't save it back to the drawing. So it's kind of redundant for what we're doing right here. So once you have them saved, then you can pop over to, and another important thing is that this will only work for Civil 3D AutoCAD. AutoCAD base does not handle any georeferenced objects. So you do have to have AutoCAD Civil 3D to make this work. So once over in AutoCAD Civil 3D, there's a couple of ways to do this. One is to enter in map, import, enter, and it's going to ask you where you want. So browse to where your folder is with your buildings in it, and go ahead and add them. You can select one, hit Shift, and or Control, and it will. Then you can select multiple ones. So in this case, we have the pass-through buildings and the main buildings. So then we'll just say OK. You can go ahead if you want to preserve the attributes. You can come over here and do like this, and that will preserve all the associated attributes that come along with it, which is usually never a bad idea. Do that, and then simply hit OK, and then there's your buildings right there. And if you select on them, over the properties, so we're going to say properties. And then as you can see, these are all the attributes that we brought over. So by doing that last little step at the end, we were able to bring in quite a bit of information, which can be helpful to your design. Now this is all right. There's a couple of different things you can do if you in my opinion, that this kind of hatching can get annoying, and you may not want it there. A couple of things you can do, since you do have the attributes, you can come in and say select similar like this, and it's just going to select the ones that are the pass through, or I'm sorry, these are the base buildings. So you could go ahead and do something like change those a different color. So when you look at it, you can see which ones are the main buildings or which ones are the pass through buildings. So you do have that ability. And if you didn't like the lime green, you can do the similar. Select similar, and that's gonna select all those, and you could make it like red if you wanted. You can also play around while you're at it and have them all selected. If that's a little too bright, you can mess around with the transparency and hit like 60. Back that down a little bit, not be quite so bold. So you do have all that ability. If you're not really into the colors at all, you can just select them all and hit X on your keyboard for explode. And basically you've just brought it back down to just the polylines or polygon. So, and then you have, but they're still together. So it didn't explode it at that level. I think if you hit explode again, you will really break it up. Let's see. Yeah, which is what you don't want to do. But so you can hit, go back a little bit and take that out there. Put it back. So that's one way to do it. One big, this is quick and dirty. Really depends on what you're trying to do. This is the fastest way to do it. One big downside is that you're building labels. Well, if you explode it, you've lost everything. So, you if you so your data's pretty much gone if you explode it. But maybe that's all you're looking for. All you want are these shapes, and you're ready to move on. The problem is that you don't have the labels. There are ways to get the labels on if you don't explode it, but it's relatively convoluted. The better way to do it is to just get rid of these all together and come on over here and use this map task pane. One thing is if you don't use this, a lot of times people are in this default workspace in the Civil 3D. So you'll probably your AutoCAD Civil loads in like this in this workspace. So you'll need to definitely make sure you come over to the planning and analysis. And then another thing is that a lot of times this task pane doesn't load in on the first time. So you'll want to come over to view and then hit this, and that will load it in. I've had that happen quite often, that task pane doesn't come in. So it's right here, just under view. Next thing you want to do is create a connection to your shape files. So you just hit data and then connect to data. And then you can browse over where your shape files are at. And I will say it's not the most convenient, easy to use file browser thing here. So where you're just looking for your folder and not the specific shape files, because we'll do that in the next step. So just browse to the folder. And then you just connect to the folder, but it won't bring anything in yet. So that's on this step right here. So we want to find the whatever. So you can bring in whatever you want, but we're only talking about buildings. So we'll do the main building and the pass-through buildings, and then add to map. There we go. So now we have the buildings in there, and they even came in as different colors versus whether they were a pass-through. And you have your little key here. So these kind of copper colored ones are the pass through, and then the main buildings are the violet. So that's great, but we don't have the labels yet. So let's play around with that. So if we have to actually select the building, so we'll have to do this twice and hit style, and then that will bring up this dialog box right here. And then from here, you'll want to come over here. So it says feature label none, and we'll say yes, and we could mess around with this and say map. Millimeters, add a label. So what it's going to do is at this point, it just thinks that you want to do like a static text. So if you want to just say MSU buildings for everything and just leave it generic and hit enter, that would be all you'd have to do. Also, while I'm thinking about it and noticing it here, for some reason, when you bring in the labels, it changes this. I don't know what that's all about, but anyways, so you want to put it back on meters, or you will not be able to see your label, and then you'll probably want to make this like 10. We can play with that. But we need to change this. So this is going to hook into all your building attributes. So I guess I should have mentioned this way at the beginning. You're going to, hopefully in your attributes that came out of QGIS, one of them does have something to do with the name of the buildings. If not, you'll have to go back into QGIS and create that. But presuming that you have the building name as one of your attributes, then you can just select it here and then apply. And let's see how good we got. And yes, so here they are. So we have them, but they're not in the most convenient in that they're kind of icy, I guess is what I'm trying to say. So what we will do here is come to style. We can play around with this a little bit, and you can mess around this however you like. So a quick way to get it is just to do that, and it puts a yellow background behind it, so it brings it out. Another one of my favorite things is to make it bold. Helps bring that text in a little bit. And you can make it as big as you want or as small as you want. This seems to work well for me. If you make them too big, and if you have a lot of buildings like this does, you're going to end up with overlapping into the other buildings, and it's not very super important. This is just for my own personal reference, the name, so just kind of know where I'm at. So I'm not creating a map that's like this big and I need to see the drawing. So this works for me. And then you can just do the same thing again for. One last thing I did want to talk about is sometimes the data connection doesn't play nice with other software that works on top of AutoCAD. So if you have like a fiber design software and you're trying to do hooking this in the background and then making that work. So let's say you're designing it here in Civil 3D, but you're just going to take this drawing and open it up in your design software. It may or may not work well. It may not like that data connection. So it might be best just to bring this back to the old school, more static shape import, shapefile import type of base map. So we can do that in two steps here. First thing, we need to get these labels and something that we can play around with. As you see, these, it's not letting me do much with it like your traditional labels. So but you can take care of that by coming up here and selecting like the pass-through building, and then come on up to annotate and then label to text, and then just say okay. And as you can see now, these are like labels that we can do stuff with. So we've got those out of the data connection. So one more time, we'll come over here, text to label, main buildings, okay. All right, so we've got that done. So now let's just go ahead and turn that data connection off. Remove the data connection, I believe. I think. Yes, okay. So we don't even need this guy anymore. So we're back to where we started, but we have labels where the buildings are. So now if we just come back like we did at the beginning and just say map import pass through main, okay. Bring along your attributes so you can get some extra data with it. There you go. Okay, so now we've got our buildings back. And to simplify it even more, we can just do that explode. So hit X on your keyboard, explode. Okay. So now we're back to basics, but we have our labels for one, and we have our buildings that another piece of software may work better with. So it's a lot simpler. And so hopefully that helped you out a little bit, and I'll put that link to the video I was referring to in the video description. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you on the next one. Bye.